Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of SuperFantaFi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Devil May Cry Season 1, Episode 4. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, while Dante's unconscious, recovering from his blown-up face, he's been kidnapped alongside Enzo, as well as the president and a lot of his cabinet or crew or whatever on Air Force 2 apparently, and Dante's remembering like the day his mom gave him and Virgil the amulets, and it's so interesting because like showcasing them having powers even at such a young age, which I guess I never really thought about because nothing's ever really covered it. I guess like the closest would be like DMC Devil May Cry showed like Dante like when he was younger as he was kind of getting older, because I'm assuming Dante's like early 20s in DMC Devil May Cry, so you saw some stuff when he was like on a slightly younger age doing stuff and getting up to crap. So I mean, never to the extent where you're actually seeing them do anything, but it was just kind of interesting seeing like that little bit of it kind of coming out when they're like tussling and slamming each other and hitting each other back and forth. And it's like, right, Ava having to really dive into that and deal with that on her own, especially when Dante's asking questions. I think that's interesting that Dante's the one that couldn't really sleep, but Virgil's the one that was kind of at peace and could easily sleep. But he's asking about their dad, and she's like, yeah, you kind of might meet him one day. And he kind of was hesitant because she didn't know what she wanted to say about him and tell them about him. So Dante's waking up on Air Force One. The two twin demons are like doing their thing, and they're play that video from Rabbit. And it's interesting because Rabbit has a lot of issues with the demon world, specifically what Sparta did, because it's like basically like he fought against a tyrant but then locked us in a cell with him. So it's, once again, there's two ways they could go about the Rabbit thing, but like I said, there's always a third possibility of that situation not being what I think it is. I mean, he might not be like the two people I'm thinking he might be. He might just be just a demon that is just tired of it. It's so interesting, especially as we learned about Rabbit and like what he did and how he accomplished all he did. Because they do bring up, and I keep bringing this up too, like how this show has a science fictional angle to it where they bring up the technology and stuff, which, you know, we'll talk about that in a bit. But Rabbit's like, he seems like a fanatical like rebel trying to like, we don't fully know what he's trying to gain, but like he has a lot of resentment towards Sparta. Obviously, he needs Dante to activate his devil trigger just because it's like, well, it's a key component to all of this. But because isn't that how that worked in 3? Didn't they need Dante's, like, I was like, wasn't that the whole point of like Virgil's fight with him was like that about that? I don't remember. I swore like him bleeding was kind of a point because you needed his blood. Like I think you needed like kind of the same thing of like his devil trigger to be activated, because that way his devil blood is like in full overdrive mode and is properly activated rather than kind of just inact. Because like right now in his current state, yeah, he's taking the benefits of having demon blood, but it's inert, it's inactive, and then he needs it active and running and coursing through his veins in a lot of ways. But I don't know, just like I said, just the whole diatribe that the Rabbit went on, which is kind of interesting. Like the venom he was just speaking, even ends up being like, Jesus, you're going to let him talk about your dad like that? And so it's like, yeah, if you don't activate your devil trigger, I'm going to blow up this plane. What Dante has no idea what the hell the devil trigger is, which got me thinking, like, have they ever used the term devil trigger in the games? I mean, yes, I know it's a thing in the games, both storyline-wise, like, oh, when they activate their powers, that's them activating their devil trigger. It's called the devil trigger in-game, but in, like, actual characters in the story, have they ever actually referred to it as a devil trigger? And, like, I don't know if I've ever heard any of the characters actually say the word devil trigger. It's an in-game function, and it's, yes, it's a thing that they do, but I don't know if they've ever used that term exactly. But maybe they have, and I'm not remembering. I just feel like I would have remembered that instance of them ever using that word. But I mean, maybe I'm, like I said, correct me in the comments. Maybe I'm just being stupid. But on top of all that, he's also got to deal with the fact that he's got these two demons talking shit because they're doing what Rabbit told him to do. It's like they need to push his button so that he'll activate his devil trigger, but it's not coming out. But obviously, the fire from one is causing all this, you know, trauma in his head when he's thinking about the day his mom died and stuff like that. It is interesting, and Dante's not even bringing up the point of, and I think this is kind of a point of playing into what I brought up previously about who Rabbit might be. This kind of plays in like, no, it is one of those possibilities, Dan, because it's like, intimate details about how, like, what happened. It's just like, oh, you hid in the closet while your brother died and you didn't do anything. It's like, wait, how'd you know that? The only people who would know that are the demons that were there, so it's possible, and word's kind of gotten around about it, or Rabbit might have been there in a lot of facets. Like I said, I've kind of already spoiled that, like what my theory was about that early on, but, I've kind of bounced back and forth, even earlier in this recording, being like, oh, maybe it isn't what I think it is. Either way, that would also kind of explain it, why Rabbit has such issues with Sparta. Things, well, it's like that would have preceded you, so if you were who I thought you were, that would precede you, but whatever the case may be. But yeah, like Dante's getting his ass whooped, and ultimately it pushes him to the point he activates his devil trigger, which, especially because of the whole arm thing, it's not the same, but immediately I'm like, it kind of makes me think of Nero, because it wasn't like the devil trigger didn't activate all the way. It got partially on his face and it transformed his arm. Kind of reminds me of gave me curse mark vibes from Naruto. But yeah, in traditional fashion, that's usually how the devil trigger activates. It's usually like Dante's getting severely effed up or beaten the crap out of, and then the devil trigger activates. So he kills the fire dude with his own sword. He's like, oh, getting killed by your own blade. That's embarrassing. And then the final one wants revenge for his brother and ends up blowing up the plane. Which, to be fair, not everyone is expressly dead. They're kind of all falling out of the plane. So maybe Dante can kind of catch them out of the sky and save them. Maybe, maybe not. It's interesting, too, because Baines had this whole point of, Dante's like, you will probably end up dead. But he's like, no, God has a plan for me. I won't die until I fulfill that purpose of whatever God has for me. Once again, he's all about it. Still believing that Dante is here. It's like the whole son of Sparta thing, obviously being impressed by the devil trigger of it all, just being like, yeah, you are so tremendous and you have no idea. Once again, just like the religious element to that is just so interesting. Like I said, it seems like he's the only one that kind of follows down that path. We haven't really seen any other religious character really lean into that. But I'm obviously like, if you are a religious person, there being literal demons is going to make you steadfast in your beliefs and just double down on them in a way. So either way, that's where things kind of end on that front of the episode. But the other side of things, we have Mary and her squad locking and loading and chasing after the rabbit because they've got the amulet tracked. And Anders, they're none the wiser about him being a traitor. And then obviously the shapeshifter is amongst them, and Anders knows which one it is. So they bounce. We also found out, was it Ninja and King? It seemed like there was something there because there was almost like this little intimate moment between them. I was like, oh, that's interesting. I was like, it's going to be sad when one of, if not both of you died. And it wasn't too much longer when the team went into what is essentially an apartment building and get stuck in there, and they proceeded to be slaughtered. You kind of felt bad because, like, immediately, Sentry got stabbed through the chest. You're like, okay. Then, like, just systematically get killed one by one. I mean, especially, like, the fact that King died protecting Ninja. And you're just like, oh, that's sad. And, like, her being slashed and falling and dying on top of his body. Yeah, it's just like, because they were top dogs up until this point. Because even, I think it was Sentry talking about the demons that she was surprised by. Because she's like, up until now, there's only been type 2. She's like, the ones that popped up here are way stronger. They're type 4. She's like, that doesn't make any sense why they're here. And I think that kind of plays into what Mary learned this episode. But as she's like in this apartment building, they gassed her for whatever reason just to make her hallucinate. I'm like, why go through all that trouble? And stuff like that, once again, makes me feel like we're following a Devil May Cry 3 jester route. That's why I'm like, I'm when I get to it at the end of it, it's going to finally like clear my head. But it's just like where we are right now. I just keep going back and forth on who I think the White Rabbit is. And I'm going to beat myself into submission, like my brain into submission, trying to rack my brain over that. Because I keep going back and forth, even in this in this discussion and review, I've kept going back and forth about that. Because, like, the fact is, you went through the trouble of trying to poison Lady and making her go a little crazy. I mean, that could have been defense measures for something else, but it just seemed too, I don't know, like, it felt too pertinent in this moment that I feel like, oh, it's got to be like, was it meant for her? I don't know. But, yeah, she's seeing stuff that isn't there. There are people who are living in this, or rather, demons that are living in this apartment building, and they like none of them came out to fight. Only like the big bads, the plant lady and the winged sword dude, are the only ones. Obviously, we haven't seen where Shapeshifter. Last time you saw him is like when shots are being fired and the team is getting slaughtered. He's hiding behind a pillar, so we haven't seen him since then. So there's always room for him to pop up at the most inconvenient time to rear his ugly head. Either be like, "Oh, I'm still alive. I'm glad to see you alive, Mary," and that's going to be suspicious that you're literally the only one in the team that survived. But then, like, it could be he shapeshifts into someone or something else. Maybe, maybe not. That in itself, I didn't even think about that. I was like, last episode, I was like, well, that kind of gives an explanation of something. I think it's interesting that it's like, maybe that's why his transformation wasn't quite, it could have just been based on someone else's form. But it was like the whole point of like, right, he'd said like to transform, he needs living organic material. So he needs the person to be alive and for him to take on the form of Virgil. But then it's like, oh, Dante's like, oh, that's not really what my brother would look like if that was really him. So it's like he could have picked a random dude to pretend to be Virgil. Who knows? I mean, I know the truth of it all, but I don't know like how much that was being telegraphed there, or it was like, oh, I didn't even give that much thought. I don't know. Once again, there's just so much that's kind of getting me second guessing myself about stuff that I'm probably like, I'm definitely overthinking. But yeah, Mary ends up going into like an apartment with this family, and then while they were trying to like, make the winged demon leave, she finds out they're demons and she pulls the gun on them because her hatred runs deep. And it's like, because some of her guilt also dealt with not only her team dying, but it seems like something happened at her home that led to maybe her dad dying, because her dad's like face is melting. He's like, this is all your fault. So the question then becomes, did she did she make a mistake? Did she trust the wrong person and things popped off at home? Like, could she be responsible maybe for her mom's death and her dad's death, or maybe mom's death but believes dad to be dead type of thing? We'll have to see. But she turned on this family, and then we ended up getting some interesting insight into the way work in hell, because they're like lesser demons, and they talk about the fact is like, what was the it wasn't like Mercurians or something like that, right? It was something like that. The people that live there, they're like, right, you think it's you think it's a demon world or hell, but it's like, no, this is where we live. But that place is uninhabitable now because it was already kind of like a place where you had to fight to survive. And now like the 4 warlords apparently took over and made it so like the air is toxic. So like lesser demons will die. He's like, even the father being like, yeah, like children don't make it past 1. And so when the opportunity came, we came to this world for a better life. And it's like, how'd you get here? It's like, well, because the rabbit popped up a year ago in that world and he showed up with technology. So that's where I was like, interesting. So the technology stems from him. We even see his whole chess situation being what it is. Like, it's like something he orchestrated, he constructed something or has something that's basically keeping him going, but it's not going to last forever. Hence why maybe he's after opening the portal to hell. I don't know if that's him trying to like make some deal with Mundus, or maybe it's a thing of, with all this power, I'll be able to properly heal myself. And maybe that's also where Dante's blood and being the son of Sparta and also being the devil, that where the devil trigger comes into play in that regard too. Maybe it's about kind of curing himself and also making himself stronger, or we'll have to wait to see. But like I said, it is interesting because even Sentry had commented on like the technology that the demons had access to, because she's like, up until this point we've never really seen them do that, and it seems like the only one that has access to this is Rabbit. So it is an interesting thing that he is operating more like a scientific human than he is a demon. So more things under the interest under the list of interesting things about this character, or things of note. So Mary ends up letting the family go because she's like, I'm not going to trust the demon, but I kind of have come to realize maybe I don't know as much as I do, because like her prejudice has run deep, because even the wife is like, yeah, we came to this world hoping for things would be better, but they're not. Sapiens will always just hate our kind, never giving us a chance to understand. It's like, right, no, not all demons are bad. And I can't remember, I don't think that's ever really been a thing in any of the Devil May Cries, like good demons. I mean, it probably has been, and I'm just not thinking. I'm trying to think, like, it probably has been, but like most devils you've come across are typically on the, well, we're trying to kill you side of things. But, well, I'm stupid. There's a glaring example of one who had a change of heart. So it's like, who the hell am I talking? Yeah. So not all demons are evil or bad. We see that. Some can change and have hearts. So question whether or not Dante will meet that character. Granted, that's later in his timeline, but with the way they're shifting stuff around, that could still be something waiting for him in the future, canonically speaking. But so I was like, yeah, there's at least that one instance, but I'm like, there's got to be others outside of that one particular character, right? I was like, don't know. But yeah, it's just Mary's like, backup is going to be on its way, and I'm going to make sure to protect all these families here, which I'm like, that's probably not going to happen. It's probably the moment Rabbit finds out about this, those families are probably as good as dead, or maybe your people are going to come in storming and you're going to try to save these families, but they're going to get killed because they're demons, you know? So maybe things, who knows? We'll have to wait to see how the next episode plays out going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I wanted to talk about. To the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.